Illinois State Senator Dan McCombie here. We've just passed the largest budget in Illinois state history, over $53 billion. Includes almost $1 billion in tax increases and nearly $1 billion on the migrant crisis. So we actually raised your taxes just to spend on migrants. Now there's some good things that the budget does, but a lot of things that are just very much out of whack. I voted no. Looking forward to seeing how we can continue to work to improve our state.
Well, that's one of the Republican Illinois state senators listing out a few of the things that this massive budget. Did you know that Illinois had all this money? Well, they got to take some more from you, it seems, before they're going to be able to spend what they have just decided to vote in as tax increases. Let's speak to the Illinois House Minority Leader. My friend Tony McCombie joins us once again. Representative McCombie, thanks for being with us here today to talk about this budget. It's not really an exciting thing to talk about, but it is important to talk about it.
Yeah, it is very important. Thanks for having me. I wish I could just come and we could just talk fun politics for once.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to that part because I think that conversation comes when we start talking about the plan for November in the state of Illinois to get some common sense back in Springfield. What do you want people to know, taxpayers in the state of Illinois, to understand about the budget that the supermajority of Democrats just passed?
Well, I think the most important thing is it didn't have to be this way. This is, and I say this every year, this is my 8th budget that I've had an opportunity to vote for or against. And this is the largest one yet. 53.1 billion is absolutely correct. McCombie had mentioned $1 billion in migrant costs. And that's a really hard number to try to find on purpose, but that's including their funding for healthcare, education, and housing. And they're going to make it even more difficult next year. To her credit, Comptroller Mendoza is really trying to get a handle on that for transparency purposes.
Are you talking about those dollars, the health care, the education, those things you just listed for migrants?
That's right.
Undocumented, illegal immigrants?
Correct. That's absolutely for undocumented or asylum seekers, however you want to label them, right? So that is the combination of
illegal
all of
immigrants.
I'm
just going to say illegal immigrants. So we have added these funds to be able to provide for these people. And you're saying that when the budget was written, it's not written in plain speak for people to be able to say, boom, there it is. That's where that money's coming from.
Right. That's right. Now there's areas where they'll say a new program for new programs, and it's an additional amount. So you can, and it allows now for spending for that. So you can determine those things, or new funding for education. That was one of the things that Blaine Wilhauer had mentioned, a piece where, why isn't it broken down for funding in the ISB line item, and they couldn't answer that question, or chose not to answer that question. But I'll be honest, they probably really can't answer the question with a number. It'll be after the fact. But so that's one piece. The actual, what they call revenue enhancement, so the tax increase bill.
Revenue enhancement.
Yeah, that's right. That was about $747 million. So that really is a real impact on businesses and people in Illinois.
How do they get that money? How are they taxing us?
Well, various ways. One way is through VGTs, so the video gaming. That's one way. So as many people know, and that's more so our area, rural, they don't have those in Chicago. So our gaming places, whether you like them or you don't, they're here. They help fund vertical capital. So think of buildings, right? Projects. They help fund projects throughout the whole state, including Chicago. And actually, the most balanced way to tax something. So a third goes to the state, a third goes to the municipality, and a third goes to the retailer, the mom and pop, right? So really the most balanced way. Well, the state felt, well, maybe you all have too much money, so we're going to take 1% more for us. So that's a real issue, and that's going to affect, because unfortunately, a lot of small businesses, due to raising rents, high cost of energy, increasing cost of goods, this is what's keeping them open during winter months. So that's going to be a huge thing. Capping the retailer's discount. A lot of our small towns are barely holding on to, and I use this example in debate, onto car dealers. And so now they're capping, they collect the sales tax for the state. Now they're capping that at only $12,000. So the state's going to require them to do a job for the state. And rather than take a portion of that for that job, now they're saying, well, you can only be paid $12,000 for that. Well, I don't know who works for $12,000 in this day and age.
Yeah. You
Just a
can't
couple
afford
things.
to. In the state of Illinois, you can't afford it. I mean, they've really made it punitive to stay here, which is why people make the obvious choice to move across the river. I mean, if you hear about people moving to Texas or Florida, but I can move to Missouri. My lifestyle is 80% the same, and my political burden is relieved. Even though the Republicans, they have a supermajority of Republicans in Missouri, and they have all their problems as well. You know,
Sure.
when you're in the super minority in Springfield, Illinois, you have very little that you can do outside of making noise and maybe some procedural things to try to slow things down. What are the Republicans in the House? What are they doing? What are they fighting for these days?
Well, our job is to hold them accountable. No different than in Republican states. The minority party is to hold the majority party accountable. It's to let people know what's going on. And I think that's one of the things that hasn't happened in a long time, is that, we have to be more transparent. We have to be louder about what exactly is going on. I think people feel so discouraged, and they're like, oh, they're going to do what they want anyways. And this is what's been, kind of an exciting time, is that people are, and I don't know if it started happening with COVID, when they just realized the government overreach, whether you voted or you didn't vote. It was like people were getting really engaged of, wait a minute, this is my life. It didn't matter your politics. It was like, why are they living in my home and in my headspace? And why is government getting so big? And that's when people started waking up. And one of the things our caucus is great about, whether you live in southern, central, and northern, or even in the collar counties, people are coming to us and wanting us to tell them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And our truth can be backed up by bills that we can say, hey, we can show you what they're doing, and it's in black and white in writing. And so they can say, oh, that's gaslighting, or that's not true. One of the things that I've asked my caucus, and they're very good at it, I'm like, you know what? Here in Illinois, there is no reason for us to gaslight. There's no reason for us to lie. There's no reason to push the envelope, because it's true, and we can point right to that truth.
We're speaking with Toni McCombie. She is the House Minority Leader in the Illinois General Assembly. I think that my experience, and I have plenty of experience working with people who are in the state house in Illinois, I feel like there's a diverse group of Republicans in there. Illinois is an incredibly diverse state. A successful Republican Party in Illinois is not going to look exactly like any one location where Republicans may have more of a stronghold. But going into November, I almost feel like what the Democrats have done to this state and the situation, we have such a large out-migration, and we have a lot of troubles that we need to face. Democrats don't have any check anywhere in order to keep them at bay, like you said, to expose and to tell the truth of what's going on in Springfield. You were there when Jay Keevan, who is now a challenger on the ballot to Katie Stewart, a very purple, if not red-leaning district in the 112th House Representatives, the Democrats pulled some dirty deeds to try to make sure that Katie Stewart didn't have an opponent. She's won multiple elections. I don't know why she'd be afraid of getting the next, being involved in the next election with an opponent. Tell me about the experience of what the Democrats tried to do there, and how Republicans, I guess across the state, because it happened in a couple other districts as well, pulled together to push back on their own silly games.
Yeah, it was really amazing. There's something about changing the rules right in the middle. And here we are getting close to the end to slate. And there was no opportunity for us to find. And oftentimes when there is an incumbent, regardless of party, or even in a primary, when somebody's in so long, it's hard to think, well, I'm going to take them on, because politics is about likability. And we were having a hard time finding somebody. And let's be honest, this isn't necessarily a fun job. It's not for everybody, and people are busy, and you get beat up, whether you're it doesn't matter your politics. You get beat up and, you put yourself out there. And so they tried changing the rules and they said, you know what, there's no candidates. You can't slate anybody. So that means that we can't get somebody on the ballot. Well, we already had somebody that was working to get on the ballot, and he had roughly like 250 signatures to get on the ballot. He still has to go through that public process to get on the ballot. And they said, well, we're not going to do that. And we're going to pass this really fast. So literally within 24 hours, and this is government never moves this fast.
Yeah, now you've shown us what you're capable of, folks. I
Yeah,
hope they understand
that's exactly right. Exactly right. And 24 hours, Jay and his team, I mean, and with your help, you all activated. You were animals. It was awesome. Literally activated. He filed with over 800, almost 900 petitions. People went nuts. They're like, you know what? Even if they didn't want Jay or didn't like Jay, it wasn't about that. They're like, the government is not going to tell me who I can vote for or who I can't. That was what it was about. And they stepped up for Jay and for good government.
Mm-hmm.
And we got him on the ballot, and it was crazy. So I think I talked to you a little bit about this on the phone. His paperwork was up in Naperville. He's down in Southern Illinois. We're in Central Illinois, in Springfield. So we had paperwork coming, flying down a couple hours from the north. We had Jay coming up from the south. We were in the Capitol, trying to get there to the Board of Elections. We walk into the Board of Elections. They're like, this is new to us. We don't have the computer ready to do this. We had the attorney on the phone. We had our compliance guy on the phone. It was nuts, but it was exhilarating and it was awesome. And I'll be honest, afterwards, we're like, okay, we're going to have a beer. Let's go have a cold beer at Boone's. And even Democrats were like, good for you.
Really?
Good for you, because this is crazy. This shouldn't be happening. And they're right. And the courts so far are standing with us as well, that this is not right.
And we're speaking with Tony McCombie right now, the Illinois House Minority Leader. I think one of the most important details about this, when we talk about Democrats and the supermajority of Democrats, it just sounds like this kind of blob amoeba that moves itself in the direction that it wants to go. It is very important for people to understand that Katie Stewart herself was in great support of eliminating her opponent from the ballot and voted in favor of the legislation that would keep her from having to compete in November.
And this is what's so bizarre and shows just the complete disorganization of the House majority right now. There is no way in God's green earth that if I was going to try to pull that kind of shenanigan, would I advise my member, oh, by the way, you should probably vote for that. Talk about a conflict of interest. I mean, she should have been walked off the floor. She should not even have been in there. And for her to be like, yeah, that's a good policy. Yep. I think I should do that. It blows my mind.
Yeah, I think the 112th deserves better. It deserves someone that's going to listen to the 112th, the constituents of the 112th, and not just be a peon for the Democrat Party at large coming out of Chicago, which is why I hope Jake Heaven gets the support, both in votes and financial support and walking support that he deserves to give Katie Stewart the fair fight that the people of the 112th absolutely deserve. Before we let you go, we don't have a whole lot of time left. We're speaking with Tony McCombie. What is the realistic goal for November in Illinois? We don't have the governor race. We don't have the statewide races, but we do have a lot of important races, especially in the Illinois House, where we get to reelect everybody. What do you want to see happen?
Yeah, so we have with the remap, obviously, that was against us. But that being said, there was more GOP voters around the state than obviously that it looks like. We had Republicans show up. I think it was 70,000 more Republican voters than there were Democrat voters. So that just goes to show you how the maps were drawn. Here's our view. We have a 10-year plan, and that's important. We're not saying we're going to flip this to a majority this cycle. We can't do that. We don't have the money. People have lost hope in the Republican Party, and I get that. So we need to start from the bottom. We need to build hope. We need to believe in incremental change, of which we do. It's realistic. So we need to really look at what can we do in 5 to 7 districts, and what can we do to keep the 40 we have. And as we've seen in 2020, when the Southern, like when you saw Phelps and Costello, when those districts started to change, the North changed too. And that's when the suburbs that once were held by Republicans changed to more purple. And so we are looking at, obviously, we got to keep Kevin Schmidt. That was such a win. And he is such a hard worker and cares for his district. And I would have questioned that keep until I went to his district and saw what he was doing there. And he is going to win that. We got to flip Kevin, and that's going to be extremely important. These are 2 areas where your listeners can really impact the state. Keep one, take one.
Yeah.
And then in the suburbs, we're looking at 5 flips, and that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge for us. It gets us to, 45, 46. We need 48 to get out of the super minority, but we've got next year. That's going to build hope. That's going to build dollars. And that's going to activate the grassroots efforts more than it ever has. And it's going to bring our caucus together. This primary was tough for us. It was really tough for us. But in the scheme of things, sometimes it takes that to bring us together. And and you saw that after the primary, I believe, that we did come together better than we have in a long time.
Yep. Work to do, but acknowledging that work that needs to be done is the first step. And I've seen it happening in Illinois, and we're grateful to be a part of it. I definitely do it because I love my home and I'm not leaving it, and I will continue to fight for it. And I know you were doing the same thing. So looking forward to what November 2024 brings and the work that we have to put in before then.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Thank you so much. Illinois House Minority Leader Toni McCombie with us here on the Annie Frey Show. She is the Illinois State Representative of Illinois' 89th District. McCombie for Illinois.com.